Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And it's our second week of back to school month. I'm sure a lot of people actually have sort of finished their second week of school, depending on where you are. I'm not sure about globally. We do have a global audience. I don't know when people internationally go back to school.
What if they don't stop school? What if we're the weirdos that have a whole summer vacation for us to lose all of our school learnings, and then we get to just kind of stay in this stunted state of stupid until graduation? But, maybe they also have that too. Maybe we're all doing the same thing, so who knows?
But it is currently back to school month. I hear about it at work with all my coworkers that have kids that are school aged. They're talking to each other about, when are your kids going back to school?
Yeah, when do you get your parent vacation? Woo!
And so it's definitely in the air. And for Film Buds this month, we decided to go and do a back-to-school theme where each episode is sort of centered on different types of people that you see at schools. So last week we did teachers, we did School of Rock, and we did Dead Poet Society. For this week's episode, we are going to do jocks and cheerleaders.
Woo!
Because I think that those are definitely for people, I think that, especially here in America, if you say high school, one of the first things that springs to people's mind is high school sports. And so I think that it seemed appropriate to address definitely one of the sort of elephants in the room of school archetypes. And I guess with that sort of said, what is your experience with school sports?
Pretty much nothing other than explaining football to somebody, a friend of mine in high school whose idea it was to go to said football game at another school because our high school did not have sports whatsoever. And I don't watch sports, so that was a fun time of me trying to explain my very little understanding of football to somebody who apparently had even less understanding of football than I did.
Well, and what age were you at this point?
I don't know, 14, 15 years old,
Okay, so this is
like...
I've got a perfect mental image of, the you at this point. Trying to desperately explain football as you understood it at that age. And it's a perfect picture for me.
But also, me not really wanting to be there either.
Yeah.
Because, I went to an art school. We went to an art school.
Yeah.
My interaction with children and sports stopped when I was probably 8 years old when my mother finally stopped putting me into sports. It wasn't for me. I understand why other people do it. Mm-hmm. But it is just not for me. Mm-hmm. It's just...
Your brother was a high school athlete.
Yeah, he did wrestling.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest sport. And then he did kung fu afterwards, which is I guess technically also another sport. But he didn't play football.
Yeah.
I mean, in high school my brother was I guess technically small. And so he probably actually looks more body shape wise kind of oh gosh. I'm just going to click on it. Lee Thompson Young.
Yeah, okay.
So his football career probably was never gonna happen in high school.
Yeah,
he was a small dude.
I definitely know that I am taller than your brother, so basketball I think was also definitely out of the question for your brother as well.
Yeah, he liked wrestling.
Yeah.
He liked wrestling. He played an instrument for a while, but like again, like, and my family has a lineage, I guess, of sorts of cheerleaders that I didn't continue. Both my mother and my sister were cheerleaders.
I always forget that your sister was a cheerleader.
In high school, and I was not, because again, there was just no access to it, and I wasn't about to go and cheer at a different high school. As awkward as I was in high school, I wasn't going to then like put myself in the situation of definitely not knowing anybody around me in order to do this thing that I thought I wanted to do. Like, I didn't have the drive for it.
No, I definitely get that, and also, no school that has cheerleaders has a shortage of cheerleaders.
Exactly.
To where they're like, we got to get kids from the art school to come in.
I mean, maybe we would have made it more interesting, let me tell you what. But like, I don't think that was just, it wasn't my vibe,
No,
I
get that.
I didn't want to be a cheerleader. If anything, I think that like in high school, I guess my high school clique is the weirdos. It's the, the mean girls clique of, the semi-goth girl, the newbie, and the definite gay, Like, come on.
No, I
We
get
painted the poles rainbow.
Yeah. No, I think that's all fair. So, I grew up, my mom was a lettered athlete. She was a lettered track and field and long distance running athlete in high school. And my sister similarly was Madeline, of course, friend of the show, Madeline Davis, was also an athlete, not just, I talk about her being a semi-pro athlete in roller derby, which she was. But I mean, her athleticism goes all the way back to her childhood. She was always a very active child, much more so than me. She was always gung-ho, to ramp off some shit with a bike. And that was not
exactly right.
My sister was like, I'm Madeline Davis. I'm 5 years old. Welcome to Jackass. Like, that was... Whereas I was like,
There's a bug.
And so, what if I fall? That was always
honestly,
my thought.
That was me. I never wanted to get hurt as a
exactly.
child.
It was like, but what if I fall?
Being hurt sounds like it sucks.
So that was kind of always more my jam. And so she ended up doing like track and field and cross country. I did end up deciding that I wanted to get into martial arts around elementary school. And so I got into Taekwondo. And I even joined the sparring team, and I was pretty good. And then practicing for like a test one day, to transition to another belt level, I fractured my foot, and I still went. I didn't know that I fractured my foot. I just thought I hurt it, and I still went and did the test, and I didn't pass. And at the same time, I was also doing, like, at that point, football, or I was like about to start doing football pretty close to then as well, and so I ended up just sort of dropping out of it. And then I ended up doing. Funny enough that we're doing one of these movies. I did do Texas football for a little while. I was part of the community leagues, in certain Texas communities where you don't have middle school football teams or that sort of thing, you have community leagues. And I was a part of a community league. It was very competitive. And I ended up actually not finishing that season because I got injured. Not even during a game. It was in practice. I had my hand pinned by a face mask at the bottom of a dog pile. And so I ended up missing out on the end of the season. And then we moved.
Honestly, that's kind of, similar. I was doing kung fu for a while with my brother, and then we moved, and I was like, all right, that was kind of like, that was when it officially ended of like Lauren doing sports. And then I discovered musical theater. And I went, no, these are my people.
And so yeah, that's sort of my bit of experience with that. But also on top of that, Bailey, who came on the show back when Henry was hosting, we did the WandaVision episode. Her father, Adrian, is a high school football coach, or was a high school football coach for a long time. And he was a part of the Denton ISD system. And they were very serious football. Denton is a suburb of Dallas. And they were serious football country. And they were big shit. His team was top dog sort of stuff. And he was the offensive coach, the offensive coordinator. And he wasn't the head coach at the time. But we went and watched them play in the Cowboys Stadium.
Wow.
And it was a televised game on ESPN. It was broadcast, I just
don't understand the enthusiasm behind it. Like, for me, that's like somebody else not understanding why the earth is round, I guess. Like, it doesn't compute for me what people actually get, what the enjoyment is of it.
It would be, I guess, if I wanted to try and come up with an equivalency that I felt like was relevant for you. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like how Northwest ended up getting the documentary about how they were the first school to do the color purple.
Oh. After we left.
Yeah, right? Anywho, they missed out on some real talent for that show, but that's beside the point.
So many black students left, and they were like, now we're gonna do the color purple. Ugh,
it ended up being like a lot of sophomores, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sure it was, because all of the seniors had dipped.
So
I'm not bitter at all. I'm not a black woman who's bitter.
But no, so that's kind of an equivalency. Or like if a school was good enough to do Hamilton so good that they televised it.
I mean, maybe we should. Maybe we should do that instead, I am... At the end of the day, it creates the same kind of trauma. You might as well be giving all of these students their just, instead of it just being the ones that knock themselves unconscious the most. No,
I mean, they all result in potentially, similar lifelong injury. I know Cirque du Soleil, is a random aside of like performance and injury. Cirque du Soleil has a huge turnover rate of performers because of bodily injury.
Well, bodily injury and also just the schedule. It's just a lot.
Yeah, it's hard strain on the body.
I
mean, they end up doing... In a touring show, you probably perform as many or more hours, probably more, than a professional football player.
More.
Yeah.
More. The longest part of a football player's day is the game, because it takes 6 hours for you to do it because they pause so often. But you're not actively doing things in those pauses. And even though that they do all of this, running and weightlifting and things like that, at the end of the day, so is the Cirque du Soleil person. Yeah. So, and they have to perform for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. And they're doing it, a night in this city, travel. A night in that city, travel. And you're getting your workout schedule in that time as well. It's high intensity.
But also, I guess, of course, people are doing football, and that's, great, and it's TV worthy, and there's celebrities and stuff like that. But I think that we could share the love for all of these other industries for people who are working just as hard or harder than these people who have, also dedicated their lives to this practice, like these weird child cult things of them playing football at like 8 years old. That's sickening.
Well, we'll get into some of that discussion moving forward.
But
so
just throwing that out there.
Since we're doing jocks and cheerleaders, we decided that we would do two very different movies tonally.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing Bring It On and Friday Night Lights.
You know, and with a name like Friday Night Lights, you would think it would be like funner.
Yeah, like
Boogie Nights
Friday
or
Night
something.
Lights, it's
Yeah.
almost American Graffiti.
Yeah,
kind of that kind of
like
feeling.
super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's completely not what I was expecting, just
Spoiler
FYI.
alert, it's less
not.
fun than it sounds. And so we're going to be doing those as an examination of jock and cheerleader dynamics, but before we jump into that, I thought that would be interesting to go and sort of look at where sport came from in school.
Okay.
Right? Because it wasn't a part of education originally.
Yeah, I guess like physical education.
The little schoolhouse in Texas that I saw that was one of the first schoolhouses of hill country that probably was about as big as the room that we're in. Didn't have fucking sports, and so...
No.
I thought that it would be interesting.
That's completely right. I mean, that school in, not the Howling of Hill House,
Bly Manor?
No.
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass
Yeah,
also
yes.
doesn't have...
No, they weren't doing high school sports at the
No.
Midnight Mass school.
No, they had maybe 25 kids.
They were maybe doing like a pickup game of basketball.
But it was like every grade. They had K through 12 there.
And they were only playing like a half court,
Yeah.
was... So...
And people were day drinking. It was fun.
So I thought that it would be interesting to go and look at a little bit of the history of how sports came to school.
No, I love it.
So sports, like early baseball, football, were generally considered an activity for poor children.
Wow, I'm sorry. I was just not expecting that at all.
And particularly in urban areas, a bunch of immigrant kids playing stickball in streets in New York, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Financially well-off children in early America did things that were typically done through private tutors and very structured activities, and it was usually things that were meant to make them well-educated and sophisticated people. And so it was music.
Yeah, I was going to say learning an instrument.
Dance. That sort of thing.
No, yeah, things that have discipline behind them. Ballet.
Exactly. General art. In some places you even had taxidermy.
Oh.
As an activity. And honestly, hunting was another thing that some rich people would take up, though more in a sporting way and less in a sustenance way. It was hunting for sport, not for sustenance. And as education became more mandatory, in more states, and that process began to sort of expand, so too, sport became a part of it. The earliest form of student sport actually, however, weren't typically organized by schools, but were student clubs.
Okay.
And so some students got together to do like a football club, where they would all just get together at the field by the school and play football.
So like Sandlot.
Yeah. So for a little bit of reference, Massachusetts is the first place to legally guarantee childhood education, and they do that in 1852.
Oh, okay.
So the last state to formalize legislation around guaranteeing childhood education is Mississippi.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
So Massachusetts did it first, 1852. Would you like to guess when Mississippi did it?
1945.
1917.
Oh, okay. I was good. I thought that it was going to be like way later into the 1900s. Okay.
So for those following along at home, dear listener, if you read between the lines, if you're ever questioning what might be considered a deeply held constitutional belief, not even public education falls under that category, because Mississippi didn't even formalize its education until just over 100 years ago. So sports starts to get organized by schools because it starts to get seen as an opportunity to get kids off the streets. We've got a whole bunch of, especially in cities, because it's 1852 to 1917. And so we're looking at industrialization, we're looking at urbanization, we're looking at immigration, all of these sort of big flux things in America. And so people go, I got it. I know how we're going to get these immigrant kids and poor kids off the streets. School sports. We've already got them at the schoolhouse. They're already playing them after school. We're going to organize sports, and we're going to use it as a way to, one, get them off the streets, and two, teach them. What are we going to teach them? Cooperation. Teamwork. These sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of the idea. You didn't have to be good. It's all about getting y'all together and getting y'all to be a team. And so we're going to do sports. And that was kind of the whole idea behind introducing sports into schools, was a way to kind of use it as a proper extracurricular to introduce things that these kids weren't getting, more structure for them, and less frivolous time to also potentially go and lapse into things like hoodlum behavior and petty crime. And so...
I mean, you know what the old saying is, you know, the busy hands.
Yeah. Idle hands make the devil's work.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got to keep yourself busy for, you know, for fear that you might fall into thoughts.
And so, the first adult organized school-sponsored sports group was in New York City. It was the Public School Athletic League, established 1903.
Cool.
More leagues and clubs opened across the country. However, the Depression then caused them to close.
Okay, that all makes sense.
And then, to fill in the gap for that, for-profit organizations began to form.
Okay.
And that's actually where the YMCA begins.
Oh, wow, okay.
The YMCA begins in the gap of sports and athletics closing for communities and people going, we can make an organization where people pay us and we provide it.
Okay.
And that's sort of where that whole sort of thing kicks in. And a whole bunch of other organizations similarly start at that time that are for-profit groups, but that also means that sport then starts to become exclusive to middle-class and upper-class children.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Sport in school also then started to become focused toward competition.
Instead of team building.
And so eventually there was an outcry amongst educators as far back as 100 years ago that by focusing sport on competition, we were excluding access of sport to students that need it but weren't considered quality enough
in order to
compete.
Okay. Is that where we get like PE from?
I don't know exactly about the history of PE, but I do know that that is essentially where some of the outcry came that, you know, if you go and do this, you're excluding kids that need this.
Copy.
And so sport has always, in school, been a controversial thing. And sport as competitive
has been even worse.
And I think when we get into our second movie, I think that's going to come, and actually even in our first movie, I think that's actually really a relevant thing, is what does competition drive the student athlete to do? And what does it do to the soul? What's the burden of being in that place? And so I think that that'll be an interesting sort of talking point as we move forward. And we, of course, begin chronologically always here on the Film Buds, so we begin back in the year 2000 with Bring It On.
Woo!
Bring It On was released August 25th, 2000. It's an hour, 38 minutes. It's rated PG-13. It's directed by Peyton Reed. It is written by Jessica Bettinger. And I'll go ahead and actually do a shout out to choreographer Ann Fletcher and cheerleading coordinator Brett DeVarn.
Yeah.
Our cast includes Kirsten Dunst as Torrance Shipman, Eliza Dushku as Missy Pantone, Jesse Bradford as Cliff Pantone, Gabrielle Union as Isis, and Nicole Bitterback as Whitney. And the plot is a champion high school cheerleading squad discovers its previous captain stole all their best routines from an inner city school and must scramble to compete at this year's championships.
Dun dun dun.
And I guess with all that said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, dear. What did you think of Bring It On? I certainly know this was not your first time.
What? What are you talking about? Oh God, no. I've watched this movie so many times. I love this movie. This movie is a perfect film for me. It's super funny. It's got a lot of like great character work. It's got some super fun shots that you just don't see in anything anymore. Like, it's campy, but it's honest. It's just got a lot of these, like, good, warm, fuzzy feelings in there, but also mixed in with, like, some really, really kick-ass cheerleading. Like, honestly, some of these kids are so talented. I know they're probably, like, adults, honestly. But, like, it's still, the level of talent in these movies are... And I think that's also probably why, like, people really latched onto this idea of them as, like, a very staple sports movie-esque genre, you know, the cheerleading sport, and making just so many of them because it's just an easy concept to be like high schoolers, cheerleading competition, kick-ass cheerleading routines. Like, it's a slam dunk every time, you know, well, not every time, but the cheerleading is always great. No, this movie is just so good. I think that Kirsten Dunst does a phenomenal job. It's right in her pocket, right in that period of time when she's like also just right before being Mary Jane.
Yeah, this is literally just before.
And, you know, it's a really common trope kind of character of this time period in movies where it's like the pretty blonde who's kind of stupid, but people allow them to be stupid because they're pretty and they're wealthy. You know, these kids are the wealthier kids here, obviously. They wouldn't have stapled inner city on there if they weren't talking about the hood children. Mm-hmm. But I think that this also is like a great, you know, other side of the tracks kind of movie. I think that it does a lot of really great stuff in this, and I just really have a lot of fun watching it. I think that Eliza Dushku is super funny. I love her transition throughout this film of like starting out being like the whatever, I'm just here because I needed an extracurricular, basically, kid, to like finding friendship in this and like fighting for what's right, because also she's our voice of reason character this entire time. You know, she's like, no, this is wrong that you guys have stolen these routines, even if they didn't know. And like, we gotta fix this. We gotta go out strong. We can't just keep doing this. You know, and she's kind of like, I guess, the good angel on Kirsten Dunst's shoulder, like the entire time, because there's also like the bad angels of the other cheer people, and it's just a fun like high school movie as well. You know, it's totally right there. These kids don't care about anything other than cheerleading. You know, like I loved the fact that both of these movies had almost the exact same line in it, which was like, I can't do anything else other than this. Like, this is what I do. I do X. In this movie, it's I cheer.
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am. That's my entire existence. Like, I don't need any other skills other than being able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just like it's really fascinating, honestly. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a young age for all these people to be going through this, like, I need to make it now mindset, or else that's it. I'm done after this point. My life stops at 18 years old. That's pretty bleak considering some people die at 100.
Yeah.
You know, what are you supposed to do with the rest of those 80 years? You're just supposed to sit there and be like, gosh, remember my high school days. Because it was supposed to be huge. It was supposed to be this. But I went on an entirely long rabbit hole of thoughts about this movie. What are your takeaways?
No, so I grew up watching this movie. I don't really remember how we came to watch Bring It On. But we ended up coming upon it somehow. Probably, I would imagine, my sister had something to do with it.
What?
And so this was a movie that I grew up watching routinely. Like, I know this movie very, very well. And honestly, Peyton Reed, actually, the director of this movie, made 2 movies that I grew up watching pretty religiously as like routine comedies that were on as a kid. One was Bring It On, and the other one was Down with Love with Ewan McGregor and Renee Zellweger. And it's a send-up of Rock Hudson, Doris Day rom-coms of the 50s.
Okay.
And it's phenomenal. He did 2 really wonderful comedies of the early aughts. Bring It On is one of those. I think it is really, really well done as a sort of, Clueless-esque movie. I think that, it hits that kind of Cher vein.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that it works for people on that level, where they can just come into it and just languish in all of the humor and all of the early aughts, late 90s isms of the movie. And I think that you can come to it, and I think that you can really enjoy it in all of that sense. I think you can also come to it on a deeper level, and I think that this is really where the movie so much excels, is that it isn't just about the humor, it isn't just about the jokes. These cheerleaders aren't just caricature cartoon people. I mean, they are funny and heightened.
Yeah.
But what's really great about this movie is that at its core, it's a story about appropriation, about the stealing of ideas, about slapping a white label on a black sound, know. And I think that it manages to do it in this ultra palatable way by using something so frivolous to most people as cheerleading.
Yeah, no, for sure.
It disarms the entire subject.
That you're not expecting it.
No, and it just makes it so organic. And I think that the power of the Kirsten Dunst Torrance Shipman character is she was comfortably living in her bubble, but then she sees injustice and she actively wants to correct it, not even just in the sense of it being motivated by, oh, this has been motivated by race. For her, it's motivated by, I've been led to believe that I am the best because that's what everyone told me. And now I'm presented with this actuality that I was only the best because it was built on someone else's foundation.
And now I have to prove to myself.
And I now need to dig deep.
And figure out whether or not, I can do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what also helps make it such this wonderfully grounded story, is that on every single level, for me, I think the comedy, I think the humor, I think that the character work, and I think that the overall plot structure all are just falling into line really, really succinctly.
Yeah,
in a very effective way.
I think that this movie is just really, like, slam dunk the funk on, like, so many levels. I just, like, it's truly amazing how they managed to wrap this thing up, because also it could have still been, like a pretty bad cheer movie.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been, like, all of these really interesting things, and then it would
And then
like,
all the cheerleading sucks.
Yeah, or we just don't get to see any of the actual cheerleading. You know, it's like a sports movie where all you get to see is locker room stuff. You know, like, it could have been that. But then, like, they really just, they took the time and the effort and really just made this thing something to be remembered, you know. I think that its legacy also, you know, this movie is 22 years old at this point when we're recording this. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane that, like, I grew up watching this movie. You definitely grew up watching this movie. You know this movie as well as I know Mean Girls.
Yeah.
And that's a fact. But it's also the same type of, like, film.
Yeah.
You know? We gravitated...
They struck the same sort of vein.
Exactly. It's this, whereas, like, to your point, this movie is definitely more of a... It is because of this story of this kind of, like, the others. You know, we've got this wealthy white school where all of the money is going because this is where all the money is. And then we've got these inner city students who are all of color. And it's their fight for this thing that they love, this frivolous thing, this thing that people don't care about, this... But they do this because they're not only doing it for themselves, but they're also doing it for their community. You know? And I think that that's such a powerful message, whereas, like, of course, you know, the wealthy students are taking it seriously, but it's also kind of like, you know, they've been patted on the back their entire life, been told that they are the best their entire life. So also, you know, they're not above, you know, falling back into the very things that got them there in the first place. You know, there's a whole scene where one cheerleader's like, I think that it would just be easier to keep cheating.
Yeah.
You know?
And a lot of people agree with that.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to lapse into the bubble.
Mm-hmm. Why should I have to fight for something that I've never had to fight for before? That sounds hard. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Whereas, you know, you've got Torrance, but then also Missy.
Mm-hmm.
And both Missy and her brother, even though they come from money, I feel like the implication is that they're almost like nouveau riche.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel is kind of the underlying thing about them.
Yeah, that's why they don't fit in. It's because they're new money.
Exactly. And they have these interests that are more associated, and this vibe that's more associated with, you know, poverty.
Yeah, exactly.
He listens to punk music.
She dresses in this rocker grunge aesthetic,
Yeah.
you know. She must be a lesbian because she looks like X.
Yeah. And so, you know, you get both of them, I think, as, and especially the Eliza Dushku character, Missy, she also acts as, like you said, this sort of backup angel, and I think that's also because she's the character that has awareness. Because she is the outsider, she brings that outsider perspective right back into the mix. Every time everyone wants to keep it distant, Missy, because of her absolute awareness of the outside world, can bring it right back into the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that also helps really keep some of the cheerleader debate very focused by also giving Torrance a natural backup. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's her growth character. That's kind of her, you know, if we're looking at this as a hero's journey, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Then on a certain level... That's
Gandalf?
her Obi-Wan.
Oh, yeah,
That's
okay.
her Gandalf, yeah. You know, that's the one that really knows what's going on and is here to help guide our lead on their journey. Mm-hmm. And so I really, and I think that what also works for this movie, is they don't make the other school, the Gabrielle Union School, I'm blanking on the name of the school.
I don't know what the name of the school is, but I do know that they are the Clovers.
They make the Clovers relatable still. Mm-hmm. They don't isolate the Clovers. They don't make the Clovers the other in an enemy sense.
No, yeah, because they have just as much right to be there, you know, and bad things are happening to them. And if you framed them in a way that they are the bad guys and that bad things are happening to them, then we can't also sympathize with their plight and understand where they're coming from when they say that, no, this is wrong.
And I think that it's really powerful also that the movie uses very little screen time, but I think that this is also about economic and effective use, you know, of your acreage, if you will. We don't get as much screen time with the Clovers, but every moment that we have with them is very impactful and very much sells us on who these characters are and informs us on who these people are and what their struggle is in a very, very organic way. And I think that it, again, just helps... It just helps make the whole movie fire on a lot of cylinders. I'm a big fan of this movie, actually.
No, yeah, honestly, like, I haven't seen this movie in a while. I will put that out there. And on the rewatch, it was just as funny as, like, watching it for the first time. It's fresh and in a way that I wasn't expecting, honestly.
It's a little edgy.
Yeah, you know, I didn't realize how many things this movie was touching on when I watched this movie at, like, 10 years old.
Yeah.
You know, like, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm. And so I hadn't, to your point, I also hadn't seen it in a while, but it was absolutely 100% worth the rewatch. And I was really, really satisfied with the journey overall.
No, yeah, for sure. Honestly, like, and of movies of this age, like, this movie has aged pretty well. There was only one time where I was like, this scene could go. This scene right here.
Which one?
Oh gosh, it's the one where they're like talking about everybody's sexuality.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the scene that could go because they use a few words where I was like, oh.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
But other than that, like, the movie is very progressive and is very inclusive and is a great window into, you know, what it is like to feel otherized in a way that you can't do anything about.
Yeah.
You know, you can't change where you grow up, you can't change how much money you truly make, and you can't change what you look like.
Yeah.
But hard work and perseverance should be rewarded to those who deserve it.
Yeah, and you know, spoiler alert, you know, a little bit. In the end, our lead characters don't win.
But
it's deserved.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Because also they won something for themselves in not winning because
they proved to themselves that they were good enough
without cheating to still be in the top 3.
Yeah.
That's important. That's an important achievement to because especially for people who could have just sunken into some really negative shit and just been like, well, screw all of this. I'm not going to try ever again and you know, sink into their pity. They were like, no, we're going to work hard and we're going to prove this not only to ourselves but to everybody else.
Yeah.
That we are actually capable of doing this and we don't need somebody else's routines in order to succeed, you know? And that's a great achievement. You know, you don't have to get the leading role. Just being in the musical can be enough.
Yeah. And that's, that, to your point, I think is something that is echoed by this movie, but then also to a certain extent, the coach of our next movie, you know, personal achievement looks different to everyone. Mm-hmm. You can achieve greatness for yourself when everyone else calls you a loser.
Yeah.
And I think that that's definitely something that's very present here. And it's all about also, you know, being able to look yourself at the end of the day in a mirror and having dignity with yourself.
Yeah, you know? I'm proud of me.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be me. And I think that, you know, especially for this age bracket that we're hitting, you know, that's a hard thing to say to your teenage self. to be like that you were proud to be that person.
I'm proud I worked my ass off and put myself on the line in every sense.
Yeah, this was a very vulnerable situation, and at the end of the day, did they win gold? No, but they won personal gold, and that is far more important.
Yeah.
Than some trophy.
No, absolutely. And so I guess on that note, we should go ahead and rate this bad boy. So if you had to rate Bring It On out of 5, what would you rate it?
This movie's a 5. This movie's perfect. I love this movie. Slam dunk.
No, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 5 as well.
Yeah, no question. This is my childhood.
It's deserving. It is effortlessly funny. It is thrilling. At times, it is occasionally a little grisly with some of the cheer injuries.
Oh my gosh, no, but that's where it's the camp falls into it. The girl who just doesn't have any teeth.
And so it's so good at times, and I really really enjoy this movie a lot. And it's a great way to introduce a complex idea to a child at a young age.
Yeah.
I literally grew up watching this movie. I probably started watching this movie back when it came out in 2000. So I was 8.
Yeah. Probably.
8 to 10 probably.
I literally can't tell you the first time I watched this movie, but I know that I have watched this movie so many times,
And so I think that it's a great way to put it out there, and also just to have a good time. It is PG-13, but also as far as PG-13s go,
it is
pretty
soft.
tame. It's pretty tame.
No, yeah, this is like a 90s PG.
Yeah,
guys. If we're being completely honest here.
Yeah, there have been PG movies that have gotten away with more.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's how I felt when we did Goonies at that theater, where all those parents with their kids were, and I was like, you're ready for some 80s PG, parents? You forgot how racy this movie was.
No, absolutely. Moving on to our second film of the evening. I guess appropriate that it comes out on Friday.
Hey! It's almost like we planned it. The subconscious did it, really.
Jungian. Perhaps Freudian, depending on your bend. Anywho.
That's fine.
So, our next film is Friday Night Lights. It came out October 8th, 2004. The runtime is 1 hour, 58 minutes. It's rated PG-13. It was directed by Peter Berg. It is written by Peter Berg and David Aaron Cohen, based on the novel Friday Night Lights, A Town, a Team, and a Dream by Buzz Bissinger.
That's not a real name.
The premise is based on H.G. Bissinger's book, which profiled the economically depressed town of Odessa, Texas, and their heroic high school football team, the Permian High Panthers. The film stars Billy Bob Thornton as Coach Gary Gaines, Jay Hernandez as Brian Chavez, Derek Luke as Booby Miles, Lucas Black as Mike Winchell, Garrett Hedlund as Don Billingsley, and Lee Jackson as Ivory Christian, and, of course, the late, great Lee Thompson Young as Chris Comer. I guess I'll go ahead and take things away on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So on top, of course, of growing up in Texas football, Adrian coached, I played, my Uncle Charlie coached as well. Then I taught in a Texas football town. I taught in a rural Texas football town. And
I think I would claw my eyes out.
I'm, of course, also familiar with Midland, Odessa. And so this movie was one that I had seen. This book was one that you heard about a lot growing up in Texas.
Well, I mean, it is in Texas.
And so it was quite the book, because it was a true story as well, and so it was one that when the movie came out, there was definitely a lot of anticipation around it and about it. And I was living in Texas at the time. It was a hot film, for a lot of kids and a lot of people, and for a lot of them, it very, without any sense of irony, struck a lot of a chord. For many of them. For me at the time, it didn't necessarily hit that note, and I think that was definitely also because at that time, even though I was coming up on playing football or had already played football, it still wasn't necessarily my world. It was still one that I had a lot of distance to, personally. And so I think for me, when the movie first came out, it wasn't one that necessarily resonated with me in a particularly deep way. As I've gotten older, coming back to it, I haven't watched it since I saw it in theaters. I actually did see this one back in theaters long, long ago.
Wow.
And coming back to it after all this time, I was more impacted by it. I saw more of the truth in some of the things that I had experienced growing up, with sort of my adult eyes looking backwards. I was reminded of things that I had experienced with my time teaching, and the sort of stories that you would hear, and some of the attitudes and some of the perspectives that you saw. I mean, Dayton High, we were a very poor community. We were a majority poor education district, and our football stadium was massive, compared for a high school football field. It wasn't attached to the school itself because it was used by multiple districts and areas around us. It was kind of a community area, and it was big. It was bigger than the Providence football field,
Oh, jeez.
It was a proper fucking football field. It looks like it should have been for like a 70s college, almost.
No.
Close to the CP. Close to the CP football field.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too much.
No bullshit.
I mean, this is...
And not sunken in. Above ground.
No. That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, and so built up concrete,
Oh, God.
And sure as shit, Friday night in the fall, the sun goes down, you could see those sodium fucking lamps, you could see those lights on. And staff was not expected to, but was asked to volunteer. You always definitely had people volunteer. I never did volunteer.
Why waste a Friday night?
Well, especially when I had someone long distance at the time. And so...
It was the dog.
Uh-huh. That's right. And so, it... Coming to it, I definitely had a very different impact for me. Mm-hmm. And I think this movie definitely struck a very different chord. I think that Peter Berg, in this movie more than in some of his later films, is doing a little bit more of a Michael Bay impression as a director. That's just the way that I sort of saw how some of the way that he framed things and some of his music cues. I felt that he was very much calling on a little bit more of a Michael Bay aesthetic and tone.
Oh, interesting. But everybody wasn't bathed in slightly yellow tinted light the entire time.
No, that's fair. But I really liked it. I thought that for the most part, it's hard to condense a novel about a football season where I'm sure the book was able to go into months of time into such a condensed period. And so I think that they structured it well for the time that they had. And overall, I was actually really impressed with, especially how frankly they presented
Oh, yeah.
some of the very negative reality of this life that is, I will promise you, very much real.
Yeah, and it's horrifying. Sorry, I mean, at this point in the show, I think that anyone listening is very aware of how I feel about football. But here we go. No, I think that I thought that this movie was fascinating. I'm not like a sports movie kind of person. Like, again, I don't really watch sports, so why on earth would I watch dramatic versions of sports? You know, it's not my bag. But I think that every genre has something good within it that highlights very well what this thing is supposed to be, and I think that this is it. You know, I think that Friday Night Lights is doing a really interesting job of showing me a football movie that truly does, to your point, like, feel as honest as it is. And it makes my stomach crawl. It makes my skin itch. How frustrating I find the world of football, and it's because they're children. And I think that it's just really, really disturbing, all of the praise that people get for playing football. And then, you know, just like these kids, they can have lifelong injuries and nobody will give a fuck after those lights turn off. And I think that that's horrible. I think that that's completely just wrong, and it's very manipulative of young, impressionable people. And I think that this movie does a perfect job of giving me that. You know, it's true. You know, these coaches, as much as they are, you know, good people, they're also sons of bitches. You know, like, the way that they treat these kids is truly remarkably bad. There's just no way around that for me. And the fact that people pay money to allow their children to be screamed at like they're worthless all day long, so that they throw ball good and they run real fast, is but I digress. I think that people are doing a phenomenal job in this movie. I think that Billy Bob is doing the most Billy Bob performance he possibly could in this, but he is in Texas and it is exactly where he needed to be. My star in this movie is not our lead focus character, Lucas Black, who is like,
well, our three focus teens are Lucas Black as Mike, Derek Luke as Booby, and Garrett Hedlund as Don. Those are our three focus teens.
Yes. I think it's really funny that they have, like, Jay Hernandez higher than any of them. And, like, no offense to Chavez, but, like, what did you do in this entire movie other than be Chavez?
It's because of his career more lately, I think.
Oh, okay, well then good for you. Good for you for coming up even above the rest of this cast. Good for you. Oh, fancy. But yeah, I think that, well, of our three, you know, I think that my standout is definitely Derek Luke. I think that he does a phenomenal job. I think that the
he's heartbreaking.
Oh god, that entire storyline absolutely guts me.
He's upsetting.
And he does such a good job that you just hurt with him, and you see this kid, like, get just injured and put on a happy face and show the world this happy person that they've known for so long, and then break when it's just him and his uncle. And that scene is hard, and it is so good to watch. And there's something about this movie that is exactly Bring It On, but it is the
dark, terrible version, on a
shitty version of reality of it. Because at the end of the day, these movies do the exact same arc, you know. But one is dramatized fiction, it's big, it's body, and it's in your face, and it's having a good time. Whereas this is very harsh reality, and it's truly fascinating to get, like, the little bits of that from Bring It On, but then this one to really slam home what this whole thing means to not only these students but also the community around them. You know, I loved the mirroring of every male in this town having a huge, obnoxious, stupid ring on his finger that was the proudest thing that he had ever done in his life. And he was going to show that thing off everywhere. And everyone in this town knew, because everyone in the town had one, because they were all champions. And I think that it is fascinating to watch also, this idea of like this being the greatest thing ever, and then also this town filled of, the drunk dad and the police chief and some teachers and crap, just everybody having these rings but then doing like nothing else with their life. And also that is truly the reality of this, because for a lot of people, you go from being a superstar to, before you even can drive, to then being thrown into the real world and going, all right, that was fun, right? Remember all that learning that you didn't do in school? Now you're going to be a trucker for the rest of your life. Have fun.
Well, I mean, in my school, in my district, my principal had originally been, he had grown up in the community, he had gone to school in the area, he had played football back then, he went off to school, became an educator, came back, taught in the area, became an assistant coach. When he was an assistant coach, he was the coach of one of the people who ended up becoming one of the people who was an assistant principal at the time that I was at the school. And he was now, of course, the principal. But he had gone all the way from assistant coach to head coach, and then he was, of course, now the principal. His son had been in the football team. Mm-hmm. And his son was, of course, now going off to college, and his other son was in football as well. And so, like, this is as real as it gets.
And again, like I said earlier, I just don't get it. I'm totally here for, you were with your history lesson about why we do sports. Like, I totally understand the reason behind it.
But it's gotten twisted.
It's
because now essentially
dirty. It's gross.
If I'm allowed to soapbox just for
Oh yeah, I mean, have you heard me?
I will be frank. I think part of the problem of modern education and modern sport is that it is all a pipeline to private big entertainment athletics, for the most part. Certain sports are literally still about the love of doing the sport. They're called the underfunded ones.
Yeah, the ones that nobody cares about.
The ones that are often in, like, the Olympics. Like curling. And fuck shit like that. You know? And so... But when you get into things like football, like soccer, like cheerleading, you are looking at big business that is now... It used to just reach far into college. There was the NFL, there was the pro sector, and they eventually started to reach into college to start figuring out to recruit from. Now, essentially, the mechanism indirectly reaches all the way as far back as high school, and really on a certain level, people are even being sort of funneled already as far back as middle school. They're not being scouted, but people are definitely being funneled as far back as middle school. And so then you get into the high school system where it is essentially kids then at this certain level, this promise of a potential step up out. And like I said, I did teach in a majority poor district, and I had several student athletes, and they had big aspirations. A lot of them did. And we even did have one kid several years ago, decades at this point, if I'm not mistaken, or at least, who did end up going pro. Mm-hmm. One. But that's enough, right? This kind of mythologized legend. It's almost sort of the same odds as Hollywood. You
Yeah.
know, it's the same sort of odds, but people teach it and promote it like it has better odds than becoming a movie star or a pop star. But they have about the same odds.
Yeah.
And I think that that's some of the problem for me, especially as an educator, because at a certain point, you know, I heard, especially one of my mentor teachers, regularly say the problem with student athletes is that everyone forgets that the first word is student.
Yeah.
And so that is literally something that everyone, I think, knows is a sort of stereotype of the system, but it still is definitely a perpetuating theme.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's something that they don't have the want to fix. You know, oh, it's like a pothole in the road. You know, it's there every day and you hit it and you go, oh, gosh darn it. And you move on with your life every single time.
And I really enjoy college athletics and I really enjoy pro athletics.
No, but these are also now these are adults that are making choices, you know.
We're dealing with high school children.
We're dealing with kids. We are dealing with people who have been doing this since before they even hit puberty. What other thing, you know, do we do in our society that we're like, no, you are allowed to do this at 8 years old all the way up until, you know,
with the aspiration that you're going to
do this as a career one day. Like, this is going to be the thing that you do forever now. We have been preparing you. And like other countries, you know, throughout history have done similar things with similar stuff. But at the end of the day, those things had a goal that was like, all right, you know, we're going to pick you up out of this high school and we're going to hand you a gun and we're going to teach you how to do this. And maybe one day you can go off. But also, if you don't, that's fine with us too, because we've got a whole pipeline of other people right behind you going, this is an easy way out of doing taxes for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know? Or, you know, being, I don't know, a real estate agent or something. You know, this is the thing that's going to make my life matter. And that's a problem because of the fact that when they get dumped on that final day, there's nobody there to help them transition.
Yeah. And you see that all the time. You know, it is a regular horror story of athletes who went pro, but they weren't Tom Brady. They weren't even Tom Brady's backup.
They weren't even Tom Brady's ugly cousin.
And they did a few seasons, and they thought that it was going to be big, and they were making good money, but they didn't save and invest in any kind of way, and then they found themselves impoverished and unsure of how to save or manage money in any kind of way. And on the other side of all of this, they had to go and try and figure out how to be a person again.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, this is a really random tangential sort of, you know, backstory. It used to be that pro athletes had to go and like find essentially kind of like teachers, fill in gaps. And so it used to be that a lot of pro athletes, this is actually kind of where sponsorship and athletes sort of mingled together. It used to be that a lot of pro athletes back in the day would go and do things like be a car salesman. Because it was easy for them to go to their town where they were a football player, or the town that they grew up in, be a car salesman, because everyone wanted to come and see and buy a car from X player. But that was how they had to go and fill in their time. Yeah. And if you were a really good player, if you were a really well-played player, you didn't have to. But Joe Schmoes had to just go and, like, 9 to 5 it.
Well, yeah, because also they weren't making a livable wage off of just doing their sport alone, whereas now...
kept them through the season.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Whereas now, we are paying these people exuberant amounts of money, and
that's also why it reaches so far back now. It's just this... and that's also the sort of same with the military. That's why you have, like, JROTC.
It's taking children and telling them and patting them and making them feel safe and secure and going, I am an adult. I can tell you where you're supposed to go because you have to trust me because I'm an adult. And they do it.
Yeah. But no, I think that overall this movie is fascinating. I think it's heartbreaking.
It truly is.
I think that all the performances are really well done. I think that by focusing also on particular football games pointedly also helps keep the narrative very focused and very together.
No, yeah, and I mean, like, some of the other, like, the Lucas Black storyline, Mike's storyline, I thought was fine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that his storyline was completely valid. You know, he's this kid who understands the game and wants to be in this game, but also, like, doesn't at the same time, and he doesn't know really what he wants to do.
He's very functionally good at it, but that doesn't necessarily know that he's not like a great improviser.
Yeah, he's having a hard time in the moment, and there's a lot of pressure, you know, and when pressure comes, people react in different ways, and his body freezes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like his whole crutch this entire time, and like he wants to do this in order to help out his mom who is sick, you know, but also if he leaves, who's going to take care of her? And this is like this hard, you know, back and forth with all of these students,
mm-hmm.
you know, having to deal with a lot of heavy stuff in their lives. And I thought that one scene was great when they were talking about, you know, when they're doing the whole shooting of the rocks, the pull and shoot one out of the air. And he was like, you know, you're 17. He's like, well, I sure don't feel 17. Do you feel 17? You know? No, this is heavy stuff for them. You know, this is what people take their lives over.
Yeah.
Is pressure like this. And I think that, I mean, I've already talked about Booby Miles, but I think that his storyline is absolutely heartbreaking because also, you know, he's our only like main who is a person of color as well in this hard life that like he has worked so hard to give his uncle something that he would never be able to have, and that, you know, that dream gets taken away, and like, what do you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then like Dawn, who has the world's worst dad ever. Yeah. Just absolutely a terrible dickhead. You know, so like all of these kids are like dealing with so much pressure, and then like, and it's all wrapped in this really intricately woven story about them and their football careers, you know, and the Friday Night Lights. And I swear, I thought this movie was going to be like, by the name alone, I thought it was going to be like a disco movie or something. Like, I swear, it's Friday Night Lights, you know. You could have told me that football games were on a Thursday. I would have been like, sure, yeah, totally. Maybe if they were on a Thursday, it wouldn't last for so frickin' long. They'd be like, guys, we got school tomorrow. Like, let's go.
So if you had to rate Friday Night Lights out of 5, what would you give it?
I really, really like this movie a lot. I'm gonna give this movie a 4.5. And I think really I'm just like my main, I guess my main gripe is that it is a football movie, I guess. I don't know. I would have loved to see, I think, more of the games as well. I think that we get a lot of the games, but I do think that we focus a lot on the drama side of it, and like I think that we don't get as many of those moments as you do in Bring It On that are like truly athleticism maximized, like a really interesting moment. They frame a lot of the games around like the dramatic arc of this movie.
Mm-hmm. I'll go for a 4.5 as well. I think it's really well done. I think it's smart. I think it's focused. I think that Berg as a director is very good at getting a good cast together that knows how to give a very emotionally competent performance. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's why he does a lot of true stories. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that as a director, his strengths are functionally telling a story well and having a good cast. And when he has veered out of that, I think has always been when he gets into his worst. But like, you look at this, you look at Deepwater Horizon, you look at Lone Survivor, good, competent, emotional performances with good, competent, functional storytelling. And I think that that's definitely here. And so I think that I'll definitely go with a 4.5.
For sure.
To wrap things up, as far as what we've been watching, we did go and we did a binge of all of the Predator movies. We did Predator, Predator 2, Predators, The Predator, and Prey.
Yeah, we did.
You can go and read all of my reviews on Letterboxd. And you can find them on the Film Buds Twitter. I linked them all on there if you would like to. We also watched Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Great film.
Oh yeah, it's the best one.
No, the best one is okay. The best one is technically Curse of the Black Pearl.
The second one.
No, Curse of the Black Pearl, the first one.
Yes.
My favorite one is Dead Man's Chest.
The second one.
Yes.
Okay.
Because Davy Jones.
Well, hold up a minute. Okay. Oh god, I just did a girlfriend reviews. Hold up a minute. No, I think that you're completely accurate about that. I think that he is like the best part of the second movie. And
everything about him, the ship, everything with Davy Jones is great.
The whole thing works. But honestly, like at the end of the day, it's kind of like a 2-part movie. It's the finish of the story, because I think that also it's a perfect 2-parter as well. The third one is where we start to go crazy. But I think that this really is like we have this good ending on the first one, and then we pick right back up, and I think that that's where they started to not know what to do after the second one, was with the idea of this continuing the story in increasing how many adventures Jack Sparrow can possibly get into.
We gotta resurrect him from the dead.
No, literally. Barbosa. They killed him, and they were like, we're just gonna bring him back. It got cheap.
What did you think of the Predator movies overall as a franchise? We might talk about them later, so don't get too deep. But what are don't like?
I really enjoy the movies a lot. I think we start out really strong with the first one, and then I think we end really strong with this newest one. And I think that the other ones in the middle
is where we get a little gray.
Yeah. Okay. The middle starts to get a little like, we're having a fun time. And you're like, where is the direction here? It's great. But they're all good for different reasons. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And that's about all that we have for y'all today, honestly. Be sure to come back next week as we continue our journey into back-to-school territory. Be sure to go back last week and listen to our teacher episode. Mm-hmm. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter. That's going to go out middle of this month. And that's just about all that I have for y'all. Dear, do you have anything that you would like to say?
I totally understand why people do sports. I totally get it. And I think that sports are great. And if you like watching sports, like, more power to you. But also, there are other things out there too. There are other colors of the rainbow. Go and explore some other things as well. You may find a new sport that you've never heard of that you really dig. Maybe handball.
Well, and I will say this in conjunction with that. I was definitely one of those kids growing up at a certain point that had a lot of animosity toward kids in sports, because I had some bad experience with kids in sports. Mm-hmm. But if you, dear poor nerd child, are out there listening, I understand certainly where you might come to some of your potentially prejudicial opinions. However, they're not all bad. And eventually, you can find common ground, because at the end of the day, definitely what any sports movie will show you is that we are all made of the same material. People that have drives, people that have aspirations. We all strive, we all seek, we all want to be something. And I think that, we can all celebrate the glory of effort.
I love that. I love that entirely. But that's also, I guess, was like, try another color of the rainbow, because there are other things out there that are just as interesting,
Yeah.
Go and watch a play.
Yeah.
Go just do something anywhere, because the more you expose yourself to things that are different, the more you will see the world as a full picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks as always for listening, you guys. Again, please be sure to come back next week. Follow us on social media. All linked, of course, down below. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.